When life looks okay but feels off, this is where we talk about it all. Hi, friends, and welcome to This Shit Can't Be It, where we have real, unfiltered conversations about rising through all the hard things, reclaiming our personal power. So, whether you're here to be seen, to be heard, get inspired, find the tools, find your own healing, growth, and evolution, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Anne, and today we're diving in that rest is not wrong. It's a journey through anxiety and renewal. And today, my guest is Jesse, and he, for years, carried the belief that rest was wrong, that flowing or slowing down meant falling behind, but the belief fueled the silent battle of anxiety, stress, overwhelm, and exhaustion. So, through courage and honesty and the willingness to shift perspective, he discovered that rest wasn't a weakness at all. It was actually wisdom and power. And today he's going to share his story and we're going to get raw and real. Welcome, Jesse. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me, Anne. Appreciate you.
Awesome. So let's just dive right in. Before you realized that you had to go on this healing journey
Mm,
because of, not resting, I could so
mm.
relate. I'm very hyper and I believed I had to be the Energizer Bunny in order to get to the top and have success. So, what did life look like before you actually realized that this was something that you had to address and overcome?
Yeah, so the process was a nightmare. I never even knew what burnout meant. I had no idea what stress or anxiety or panic attack. I had no idea what any of that was. I had a happy-go-lucky life. Everything was fine. I was kind of the laid-back, kind of chill dude. And then next thing you know, I have, the racing heart, pounding headaches, my stomach's tied up in knots, and my brain cannot shut off. I am hyper focused on all of the wrong things. I'm critical of everything. And it took me over half a year to realize, wait a second, I'm stuck. Stuck in fight or flight mode. I am well on my way to burnout. And what I did is what everyone does is we think that signal is put pedal to the metal. Let's put more fuel on the fire. Let's go, 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 which just continued this cycle, made everything feel absolutely worse. And I had to go through this mindset shift that you talked about that, wait a second, this isn't a green light. This is a yellow or a red light. That means I need to stop, take a break, take a step back because things aren't going the way this can't be it.
Oh my God. I love that it did take you so long to figure this shit out because it did. It took me 30 plus years in the working field to figure this shit out. So,
Yeah, yeah.
and I would always, like the name of this podcast, I would always say, this shit can't be it. But I
Right.
never knew that I didn't recognize it was a pattern that was
Mm,
perpetuating. And it was constant up, down, like burnout, go again, burnout. Like that's all I knew. And for me, I used the pedal to the metal to avoid what
mm-hmm.
was going on in life, and that
Right.
was dealing with the death of my mother. So
Okay.
I became a workaholic, which was,
Yep.
sociably acceptable. Companies loved it.
That's right. That's right.
But the problem is, and as technology grew, it put even more pressure. And you've probably noticed that too. It
Hmm.
applies more pressure because now
Yep.
you're expected to do more because of the efficiency.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's
So
like
when you
giving, it's
hit,
like,
go
sorry, what were you
ahead.
saying? I was saying it's like giving the keys to a Ferrari to a 14-year-old kid with like a beginner's, has the name of his beginner license. We have all these tools to make ourselves more
Mhm.
productive and more efficient, which is again, just we're about to drive 1,000 miles into the wrong direction or into a tree.
Yeah, right over the cliff. Yeah. Yeah, and that's a good analogy because that's exactly what it feels like when you realize what you're doing to yourself. So
Hmm.
you had the yellow and red light click on and you were like, "Wait a minute, this is not the green light. This is the caution light
Yeah.
and or the red light because the red's coming." What made you shift? How did you know where to go? Because that's one area that I
Oh
struggled in
man.
for a while before I
Oh
figured it out.
man, it took me about 6 months when all the symptoms kind of overwhelmed me, and I was like, well, I can't live like this anymore. But it took me almost 5 years to figure out how do I make those changes. And I tried everything. I tried the weirdest, wildest, anything I could imaginable just to feel better, just to feel calm and myself again. I was pushing people away. I had strained my relationships. I wasn't able to focus on my business. I was in a million places at once. And it got to a point where I'm like, oh, like something needs, like, I was always trying to make a change, trying to make it better, trying to change things, but I didn't know, like nothing was working for me. My
Mm.
aha moment, I don't want to give too much away of my aha moment because I reveal it in a free guide that I have. If you go to my website,
Oh, nice.
um, it's it's how I had that perspective shift in my mind that made me realize, wait a second, this isn't what I need to be doing. I need to be resting, taking care of myself. Every time I feel this way, it's not the green, it's the red. And by replacing those habits, I learned not only to regulate my own nervous system, feel a lot better, but also put like proactive things in place in my life. Just so I, and I've been making this mistake even lately. I'm like, I thought that like, okay, I burned out once, this will never happen again. I learned how to deal with that. But now I'm recognizing the same signals again. I'm like, wait a second. And I have these systems in place in my own life to prevent burnout from happening again. And a lot of them are, taking care of myself, being clear on what I'm supposed to be doing on a daily basis, having a better strategy of being productive and taking care and all these kind of things. So, anyways, I ramble on.
No, no, that's good. And I love what you said because I get the abbreviations mixed up and wrong all the time. But the PTSD, is that
Yep, yep,
right?
yep, yep, yep.
That people experience, I believe that that's their body saying, okay, enough. You need to
That's
start
right.
recognizing
That's right.
because like even I can see that creeping in certain areas of my life because I always chose the high stress, high demand jobs.
That's
And
right.
the key thing that you said that resonated most with me, and like you say, it took me a while too to learn that we have to regulate our nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not in medications. That's not in like that. All of that is internal. And you can
Completely
take
up
all the,
here and
yep,
there. Yep.
you can take all the drugs you want. It's a temporary fix. You have to
Right.
learn how to take the healing first and then the strategies and the skills to be able to, like you say, catch it and regulate the nervous system on demand
Hmm.
because that doesn't happen overnight. And
That's right.
it took me a long while. And I often talk about, I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Joe Dispenza.
I
That name
refer to
sounds so
him a
familiar.
lot. So
Okay.
he's big into meditation and the science behind the neurological and what goes on with our minds. Like he tracks it scientifically,
Okay.
how meditation and different techniques can actually give
Hmm.
us quantum leaps in our
Yep.
physical life.
Okay.
And I remember listening to him talk, and he was saying that there is no such thing as a bad meditation. Because I was just like you, my brain was like, whoo. And my daughter was diagnosed with ADD, so she doesn't have the hyper,
Mm-hmm.
and she was diagnosed with high social anxiety at a young age, select mutism, and just
Hmm.
recently autism, high functioning
Hmm.
autism. And
Hmm.
diving into that autism and ADHD piece, because that's something you're born with, and it's not a
That's
disease,
right.
it's
That's
how
right.
you're wired.
That's
So
right.
diving in and learning this about myself and learning it about her, I'm realized I'm potentially undiagnosed ADHD with
Right.
the hyper.
I think a lot more entrepreneurs are like that than you think. I think a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
high function, yeah, absolutely.
100%. And I was like, holy shit, like, whoa. But understanding these aspects of yourself is key to helping you navigate to move forward. So you being an entrepreneur and experiencing burnout, you're at a bigger disadvantage than people that are working for a living because people that are working for a living have medical systems in place and have you know, when you start to report that you need additional supports and help,
Right.
you're in a position where technically they're not supposed to fire you, at least in Canada and
Right.
the US,
Right.
but they can find ways around it if they really wanted to. But for the
Yep.
most part, they support people more now than
Right.
they did before.
Right.
But you have things in place to help support you through that. But as an entrepreneur, you got nothing. So
Nothing.
when you burn out, you fall
All
flat on
on
your
you.
face, your income
That's right.
stops, especially
That's
if you're a
right.
solopreneur.
That's
But if
right.
you're working, you have things in place that either part of your income or all your income is secured
Right.
for
That's
a
right.
duration to get through it. And as an entrepreneur, it's all on you, not just the healing, but the
Hmm.
financial burden of it all. The
That's
financial
right.
burden of the healing, the financial burden that the loss if you do hit burnout. And that adds even more stress. So how did you balance
Right.
that piece? Because that's a whole different kettle of fish.
That's a whole other animal. Luckily, I had certain systems in place and a good mentor and a good guide to help me kind of still grow and handle my business as best as I can. While, like, honestly, if it wasn't for the systems and things like that I had in place in my business, it would have been an absolute disaster because I was I could hardly spend an hour a day on my business because I was so locked into my brain and myself and it was my own personal living nightmare. I do not wish it on my worst enemy. It was the hardest battle I've ever been through.
Yeah.
I wrote a book about it a number of years ago. When COVID first happened, I was doing free live sessions on Facebook just to help people with stress and anxiety from the things that I've learned. Um, I've taken kind of all of that life experience and I've really placed it into focusing on helping burnt out entrepreneurs understanding and recognizing these symptoms and patterns of burnout, and they manifest themselves in things like procrastination, not taking
Yeah.
action, or not having the proper focus, or trying to juggle all the balls on their plate. And so what I've done is I've really tried to focus in on hoping and helping those kind of people so they can finally get things done and they can enjoy the freedom that they started their business for. They didn't trade a 9 to 5 for a 9 to midnight. They wanted that freedom and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to being an entrepreneur, there's so much on our shoulders,
Mhm.
like you said, with not only the burnout, but also the revenue side of things. And so that's where I've really found my passion, my help, and where I've been placing my focus on lately.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, because that's huge. Because even I noticed, like I've been diving into some Tony Robbins training lately,
Mhm.
and I noticed he talks about business in the form of a life, like our life cycle.
Yep.
So, when businesses hit birth and infancy, most of them don't pass that toddler stage. And the
Right.
toddler stage is where you start hiring people and you got a whole new set of problems because when they screw up, now it's,
Mhm.
you're not just
Mhm.
fixing your screw ups, you're fixing other
That's
people's screw.
right.
So it's a whole different ballgame because we're all going to screw up. We're not perfect
That's
and it's
right.
going to happen. But he said it's to get your business to that prime stage where you are no longer needed to be in it. And
That's right.
that's where you start to experience your time freedom, your financial freedom, but
Mhm.
also being able to take that prime stage and have it last for centuries
Mhm.
versus going down the rabbit hole of the latter part, which is the aging. You start losing revenue, you start losing, customer, you start losing everything to the point where you get to institution and then death. so it's that's how he scales the business. And when I looked at it that way, I was like, holy crap. And he's like, most people don't pass that toddler young adult stage because they don't have either the personal development because
Mhm.
business requires personal development.
That's right. That's
If
right.
you think it doesn't, oh my God, you're in for a ride.
That's right. That's right.
But most don't pass that toddler and young adult stage of business because of that next level evolution that's required to get you to prime stage, which is
Mm.
peak stage of business. And listening to him talk, and I'm like, holy shit, like you really got to navigate and start planning the business, like work the business you're in, but start planning for the business you're becoming.
Ooh, I love
So
that.
there's two businesses that you're managing, the one that's here now
Mm.
and the one that you're leading to.
Mm.
And that's constantly evolving and growing. And even for me as a coach, like I was literally sitting in his business mastery training and I had this epiphany and I'm like, how can I hit people better? How can I hit them more without encompassing too much more and taking on too much stress and anxiety? And it hit me. Of course, my name's Anne with no E. And I
Mhm.
just changing our verbiage of who is our ideal client. And I hit, for some reason, the annihilation came into play. And I was like, holy shit, that has my name in it. Because I've never branded my name. Like my
Right.
last name is Oikle, and most people look at it and they're like, yeah, no. So I've never branded my name. And I've never wanted to brand my name. But then when I hit that, I was like, holy shit, that's a way I can brand my name is create an annihilation system that
Mhm.
encompasses pieces of how I can help people. And it's through that type of evolution that you start to open up to different, like you say, strategies, honing in on how you don't have to be in it all the time, possibly hiring somebody. AI is a new tool that's coming out for solopreneurs to help you navigate so you don't have to spend money on somebody so early on and start the revenue building so that when you do start to hire, you can hire smart. And having the right people on board supporting you can be huge. So I know you mentioned you had a mentor. How long did it take you to dive into the mentorship? Was it before your business, after you started your business?
Oh man, I've had too many mentors in my. I've spent way too much money on way too many members in my mentors in my lifetime. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 16, and since then
Oh, wow.
I've spent over $250,000 on training and courses and mentors and this and that and the seminars, and so I've been all over the place.
That's
Um,
awesome, though.
well, it's necessary. I don't think anyone could get anywhere without a mentor. Not as quickly as you'd hope or as clearly as you'd hope, that's for sure. Like they're well worth their time and their energy and the money to have someone who's just even if just a couple of steps ahead of you take you through it's just saves you through so many headaches and time and stuff like that. Like I wish I had so I had a business mentor that helped me at least maintain revenue while I was going through my burnout, but I wish I had someone that would just been like, hey, you can shortcut all this burnout, all this stress and anxiety by just doing this, this, and this. Oh, I would have absolutely loved that. But
Yeah.
I had to learn it the hard way, and that's okay because now I can help other people that are feeling that burnt out, that want that mentor and that coach to help them through it. So
Well, that's just it. And not only that, if you didn't go through it, how, like, that impact of how you help now might not be there.
that's right.
So understanding that the process we go through happens for a reason, like all of us, all
That's
of us
right.
coaches promote, this is a fast track because it took us forever and we've
That's
refined
right.
what we've done,
That's right.
but we
That's
all
right.
do it and
That's right.
everybody still has their journey they go through. So even though we're here to help fast track, they still had to get to a point to get to us, to
Yep.
even get to the point of fast track. And that's
That's
all
right.
part of their journey. And whatever that is their story. And that's ideally who their ideal client is. And I love that you're helping entrepreneurs because I've had a lot of people on this podcast that are coaches or in business, but not very many people that actually help other people in business.
Mm,
And I noticed they talk about energy and how energy draws people in. I have probably over the last, I'm going to say, year and a half to 2 years, especially on Facebook, had a ton of coaches who coach coaches to the point where I don't even accept their friendships anymore because there's so many coaches helping coaches. So
mm,
I love how you say that you're a guide, you're a coach, a mentor helping people in business, period,
mm.
because it's not all about the coaches. It's about people in business need coaches.
That's right.
And that is key. And for me, is one thing I noticed too is that as I was going through my 30 years of working in the high demand in the industrial world, I worked, in the industrial field. I worked like in marine industry back in Nova Scotia because I'm in Canada. And I moved to Alberta and you dive into like the pipeline industry and the construction industry. So things are very different here than back east because everything's magnified because the population's so much bigger.
Mm,
And like learning all that, even back there and here, I've always said to my managers, like, you guys provide all the skills and strategy training. Like, I don't know if I could handle another sales training. Like,
mm,
I need something personal. I need the personal development. And of course, in the
mm,
corporate world, they refer to it as leadership, but even the leadership training really isn't personal development. It touches on it,
mm,
but
mm.
the leadership training, at least the ones that I've been exposed to, teach you how to navigate people. And it might help you dive into personalities, but it doesn't help you to turn inward
That's right.
to
That's right.
fix this shit. Because,
That's
like I
right.
said, all of these strategies and skills, yes, they can help up your game, but it's only going to help you to a certain level because you will block you
That's
because of
right.
your limited belief systems and processes. So if you can beat that first and then add the skills and strategies, the sky's the limit at the end of the day. And I love using people like Grant Cardone as an example because that man, he doesn't shy away from admitting he was a drug addict heading down a bad path,
Mm,
and his net worth is very similar to Donald Trump, who was born in business.
mm.
So it goes to show you we don't have to have the silver spoon. We can overcome if we choose.
That's right.
And he and his wife are living proof of that.
Mm,
But it boiled down to a decision,
mm,
constantly new decisions. And I always tell people a decision isn't just a decision, it's a decision that is absolute
mm,
because that energy means nobody's bucking back, pushing, like it's
mm,
done.
mm,
And that's the difference because otherwise you're negotiating with yourself and others nonstop.
mm, mm.
And for you coaching business people, how does that whole process look for you? Because that's different from coaching individuals. Like individuals, you're helping them navigate their breakthroughs, but for
Mhm.
businesses, they're at a whole different level than individuals because they're already gone through a lot of what the individuals have already dealt with,
Mhm.
and they're now battling their business to get to next level.
That's right. That's right. It's just a they've gone through a more of a struggle. There's more on their shoulders. They're more responsible and accountable. Like just a regular average employee, they have a boss that they have to report to. They have to check in with their time. But as an entrepreneur and a business owner, like we aren't accountable to anyone. Like the opportunity is the limit, but the burnout's the limit too, because we can go in any direction that we want as hard and as fast as we want. So I said a lot of business owners trade the 9 to 5 to a 9 to midnight, where
Hmm.
you just have the ability to just work yourself as hard as you want with no breaks, because you'd always want to achieve more and do more and be more. And the problem is that's just the surefire way to burnout. But a lot of people don't realize it until it's too late, and that's okay. But it was the same with me. But now I know, and I'm empowered with the strategy. Like, okay, now what do I do? What's the next easiest step that I can do every single day enjoyably that will take me one step closer to my goals without burning out?
So, what are some of the things that you do? What are some of the systems in place that you have that help you stay on track and become aware when it creeps in?
Yes. So when it comes to being productive, trying to move closer to your goals, achieve more in your business, for me, the new framework for myself is if I can't be consistent at this, if I can't do this every single day enjoyably and easily, that aligns with my energy, my direction, and my goals, then I'm gonna lead to burnout. I just know it. And so many of us live that life of like motivated, do a bunch, not motivated, do nothing. Motivated, do a bunch, not motivated, do nothing. And so for myself, that's what led to my crazy brain going all over the place. I try really hard, and then and it was just a constant stop, start, stop, start. For me now, it's completely different. It's like, okay, what's the one thing that I can do today in my business, in my life, that will take me one step closer to my goals? How can I make that as easy as possible to get started on? How is it something that I can enjoy doing day in and day out without burning out? And how can I stay consistent at it, not just for the week, but 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 years down the line? How can I stay consistent? Because if I can't stay consistent, it's not going to be a habit. I'm going to rely on willpower and motivation and self-discipline, and I'm gonna burn out.
Yeah, they don't last. Willpower
They don't.
doesn't last.
Willpower,
Yeah,
willpower doesn't last.
no. And I remember growing up, that's what everybody preached was take it to your willpower. And I'm like,
Yep.
fuck willpower. Like,
It's a limited resource,
it
and it's
is.
usually based on, the shiny object or the hope or the motivation that we have in that moment, but it doesn't last because it's a finite resource. It's energy. We can't just if we had infinite energy, then that's fine, but
Yeah.
we don't have infinite energy, and that changes the older that we get and the more responsibilities we get, and then you add the kids, and then you add this and you add that, and next thing you know, you're just a prime target for our for going to the psych ward.
Absolutely. And like I say, I can relate to it. So I only have the one,
Yeah.
but with the challenges that we have, it's like that was on top of the work stress because I wasn't an entrepreneur when that all come down. I was still working that high stress, high demand job.
Mhm.
And finding the balance was huge. And I had to set some strict boundaries.
Mhm.
End of story. Because that's the one thing that I realized after, not during, it was after. It was like, wait a minute. We trade, especially those that have kids, we trade the best parts of our day and we give that energy to a company for a
Mhm.
paycheck.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the leftovers go to the spouse and the kids.
Mhm. That's right.
And when I realized that, I was like, I did this for 30 years. I want to throw up.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really want to throw up. But
Mhm.
like you say, when you start a business, the job looks good because you go from working, 9 to 5 as a metaphor
Mhm.
to infinite hours because it's
Mhm.
just you.
Mhm.
And, there are things when you're starting off that you have to do that you're not going to love, but that's things that you can put on your list of that's what I'm going to farm out the minute I
That's
start
right. That's
and
right.
or just take the money anyway and put it toward it
Yeah.
because like you say, that will take you out of being entrepreneur really quick if you're
Mhm.
not loving those pieces
For sure.
and being able to really focus on what matters, doing the
That's right.
activities that are going to impact and have matter. And that's one of the reasons I started this podcast, because everybody kept saying to me early on, bring value, bring value, bring value. And I'm like, I'm coming from a job mentality
Mm-mm-mm.
and wanting to get into entrepreneurship. And, I dabbled for years throughout working into network marketing. So I got a taste of what it
Mm-mm-mm.
is like through a third party
Right.
representative, so to speak, because
Right.
you're, as much as they say it's your own business, it's not.
Not a chance. Yeah.
No, not even close. So, but I mean, it gives you a taste of that
Right. Right.
independence.
Right.
And it was a huge awakening for me to be in a position that, okay, this, I have to love this, because if I don't, what's the point? And
Right.
that's one thing that was taught early on, way back when I was younger, is like you say, the willpower. What is it that
Mhm.
you want? The flashy cars, the big houses, and
Mhm.
they tried to motivate you through your dreams. But
Mhm.
like you say, that shit doesn't last
That's right.
unless you are a type of individual that's hyper focused on that stuff. Most of
Mhm.
us are not. And
Mhm.
that's not going to feed your soul to keep you going.
That's right.
But finding a deep internal why is the only thing that's going to drive you.
That's right.
And I remember working with one of my mentors, they were like, why? And when I answered, they asked me like seven, eight,
More,
nine times,
more wise.
why? And
Yeah.
you get to the point where you hit a why, where it brings tears to your eyes, makes
Mhm.
your heart stop, and that's your driving force.
That's
And that's
right.
a piece most people are missing when they start
Mhm.
anything. They don't
Mhm.
go through that process. And
Mhm.
that's when I realized, holy shit, like that doesn't take willpower. That's just natural drive right there.
Mhm.
It's a
I love
different
that.
level of juice.
That's so powerful. Thank you for reminding me of that because that's like just reconnecting with my why is so important. Like you said, to have that get up and go on a daily basis when you don't feel like it. It's so absolutely important for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So how did that lead you? So you started into entrepreneurship early. How did that lead you to what you do now?
It was the process of a lot of trial and error, a lot of building businesses, crashing and burning businesses. uh, I have
Not
more fail.
giving up. Keyword. Notice
That's
people, he
right.
has not given up.
That's right. I've failed. I've failed. The expert has failed more times than the beginner has tried.
Hmm.
So, um, and so I just going through that process at 16 years old, trying this business, failing that business, trying this, bringing debt and stress and things like that. And then I built up a business to 8 figures, and I was able to manage it in under 30 minutes a day because I kind of had to because I had so much stress and anxiety in my life. So going through that and then learning how to deal with the stress and anxiety, and then having this all come together in, like you said, the business that was to the business that it's becoming. This is my new business that I'm becoming, and my own personal brand, my own personal audience. My other business was a supplement business that I ran for the last 9 years. I built it up, did fantastic, gave me a fantastic lifestyle, but didn't give me that inner purpose of me being able to connect and have a personal relationship and an audience and a tribe. And so that's where I'm in the process of right now is building and finding out, my message and my story that best connects with other entrepreneurs that have gone through a similar journey that might be stuck in the middle of burnout right now, who struggle with taking action on the things that matter most, and they're just so distracted and so scattered, and they want to move the needle and they want to get things done because they want to enjoy the freedom that they started their business for. And so that's kind of
Yeah,
where I've honed in on my message and my drive and my desire. It's just a result of 19 years of nightmares and wins and failures, and the successes pay for the failures, and the wins pay for the losses, but it's just all part of the process.
I love that. And I really want to point out, because this is also important. You and I both started this morning with glitches.
Yeah. Oh, I thought, yeah, it's a scary morning.
And that can shape so many of us. It can shape our day.
That's
And
right.
being able to break the nervous system so it doesn't impact the rest of your day and you
Mm,
can live.
yeah.
So when you start off with the flat tire, the computer system that's crashed and broken, and you got deadlines and all the shit that's piling up, if you can interrupt your nervous system and get yourself into a better state, that whole day doesn't have to be shitty because of
That's
how the
right.
morning started.
And that's right. And that's exactly what I have in my free guide for all of your listeners because
Oh,
it's
nice.
one little shift. I call it my 5-second focus trigger. It turns that overwhelm and that failure and that procrastination, all those terrible feelings, and it switches it in to focus and productivity in less than 5 seconds by unlocking your brain's natural motivators and triggering internal dopamine and regulating your own nervous system. So that's
Love
what
it.
I have for your listeners on my
That's
website.
awesome.
That was a
Whoops.
perfect segue.
That's awesome. So I'm going to make sure that that link is in the description
Absolutely.
of this podcast, whether it be on YouTube or Spotify. So make sure you go grab that free guide because what he's talking about is key,
Mhm.
not just to disrupting here and now, but that's the key to helping you find the joy in your life, because if
That's
you let
right.
that one little thing screw with your whole day and
Yep.
or week,
Yep.
some events impact us for months and years.
That's right.
So you and I were talking prior to going live. My mom passed away at the age of 20 when I was 23, and
Mhm.
that impacted me for 8 years because I didn't have these tools back then.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I didn't
Mhm.
even know where to go find them back then. Like, I don't even think NLP was a thing back
That's
then.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, all the skills and things that we have at our fingertips today didn't exist back then.
Mhm.
And I didn't want to go to therapy because I had preconceived
Yep.
disorientated
Experience of it.
belief systems
Yep.
around
Yep.
that.
Yep.
And I refused to go on any sort of medication because
Mhm.
my mom was on over $500 worth of drugs a month after
Yep.
medical. I had two
Mm.
sick brothers that passed away when I was younger from a genetic deficiency, and I seen what drugs did to them. So I
Mhm.
was like anti-drug.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So unless I need it, like my thyroid, don't talk to me about
Right.
medication.
Right. Right.
Give
Absolutely.
me natural resources to help build, then give me the skills and the tools so that
Yes.
my internal body and my brain can do it for
Yes.
me, not the
Yes.
drugs.
Absolutely.
So, it's I'm glad that you're offering that to all the viewers here because that's key. And that's one piece that I've only learned in the last probably 6 months to a year
Mm.
is the physiology of it. And that's
Mm.
what you're talking about is physiology.
Right.
Because for years, any training that I had taken leading up to the last few years was all about the skills and the strategies.
Mm.
And that's the last piece of the puzzle, you
Mm.
know. And Tony Robbins teaches this a lot. He says it starts with the physiology because
That's
that
right.
impacts your emotions, and your
Absolutely
emotions
right.
drive your behaviors and
That's
your
right.
belief systems, and
That's right.
then you bring in the skills and the strategies because
That's
then you
right.
can take it to next level.
That's right.
So that physiology piece I was missing for years.
Absolutely.
And I was physically fit growing up, and when my mom passed away, I became a workaholic and I ignored my physical vessel. And
Mm.
that's one regret I have in this life is ignoring this,
Mm.
because I was like the Energizer bunny. There was
Mm.
nothing I wouldn't tackle. There was nothing I
Mm.
couldn't do when it come to physical capacity.
Yep.
I was the youngest girl of all boys, and I could run because I had to learn to run to save my own life.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
My brother's a big burly boy.
Yep. Yep.
And I'm like all of 5 feet tall if I stretch first thing in the morning. So running was my survival system.
Mm. Yeah.
So I mean, when you become an adult, if you don't take care of everything, every piece, it all matters. Your emotional health, physical health, your spiritual health,
Hmm.
it all impacts. It's
Yep.
all a piece of that puzzle. And the physiology was the piece that I dropped in my early 20s to avoid the
Mm.
chaos, the stress, the anxiety, the overwhelm. And I started to feed off that, thinking it was normal.
Mm.
And
Mm.
it was Dr. Joe Dispenza that woke me up to it's not normal. It will lead to disease. He's
Hmm.
the one
Hmm.
that taught me. I don't know if you meditate, but he's the one that led
Oh
me
yeah.
into meditation because
Yep.
my brain was so busy. I was that person that said, I can't meditate.
That's right.
This
That's
thing is
right.
like 5 days out.
That's right.
Like,
That's right.
and it was when he said there's no such thing as a bad meditation.
Mm.
It took me 2 solid years of fairly consistent
Hmm.
practice. So not every day, but
Hmm.
at least a couple of times a week starting off and then more. Sometimes I would drop it and I'd have to pick it back up. But it
Hmm.
took me 2 solid years before I noticed my mind was actually starting to
Going down.
quiet.
Yeah. Quiet down. Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, this is what they're talking about.
Yep. Yep.
And it was in that quiet. I always used guided meditations to help bring me back and keep me
Mm-hmm.
focused because this thing was just spiraling. And I remember the first time somebody said do a silent meditation, and I'm like, holy shit, I don't know if I can do that. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, when I tried it, the brain would go, and I kept
Mm-hmm.
bringing it back to the breath. And I'm
Mm.
to the point now, if I don't do it as a regular practice, so I wake up in the morning and I have a
Yep.
practice that I
Ex-
follow,
Yep. Absolutely.
and I've even done a pre-recorded version of it for
Mm.
my clients.
Nice.
But I go through a practice, and it's a form of meditation, gratitude, and
Yep. Yep.
it includes the physiology piece, the breath
Yep.
work. But
Yep.
even this morning, it was one of those mornings I didn't do that standard practice. I just
Mm.
literally snuggled into my couch and just sat there quietly and just for at least half hour, 45 minutes, and just sat there and let my mind do its
Yep.
own thing.
Perfect.
And the energy that I get from that now is
Oh yeah.
huge.
Absolutely.
It's huge. And, it makes a difference. So, what are some of your practices to help keep you grounded on a daily basis?
Absolutely. That's a fantastic question. Because, like you were saying earlier, like you can't let a bad moment ruin your week or whatever. I let a bad day ruin the next 10 years of my life. And knowing how to not only bounce back from that, but knowing what to do to just to know how it's not about the thing that happened, it's about how I react to the thing that happened.
Mm,
And so putting in new habits and practices in place so that when those things happen again, I have a default reaction now of, like you were mentioning, either resting and care and meditation. So I have like my, if I'm this, then I'm that, then I do that kind of thing, like red light, not green light.
nice.
But for myself, I have a daily routine that I've done every single day for like the last 5 years. I have about 25 things I do every single day. And a few of them that I start with, the first thing I start with is a meditation. It's a simple meditation. I close my eyes, I count down from 100 to zero. It's simple, it's easy for me to do. It's quick, and I do that after my meditation. I do visualization. After doing my visualization, I do my breath work. After doing my breath work, I do my affirmations. I have a whole morning routine
Nice.
as well, but this is
Yeah.
all preventative stuff because I knew it's not it's way better in prevention than it is for cure. When you're in cure, when you're in burnout mode, it's like you broke a leg, you just need to go late, like you just need to put the cast on, go lay down. You got some
Yep.
recovery to do, buddy.
Yep.
But when it comes
Rejuvenation.
to but exactly, but when it comes to preventative stuff, these things are absolutely necessary to prevent burnout.
I love that. It's necessary. That
Mm,
is key.
mm,
And that's where that whole thing came into me, like with the physiology. It's like
mm.
I have to make that an
That's right.
absolute. It's no longer a negotiation.
Yep.
It's get up, do this, 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 and add that.
Yep, you can either choose to do it when you want to, or you're going to be forced to do it later because you didn't take the time and care for it.
And I was surprised. I heard somewhere, I can't remember where, but they tested 60 and 70-year-olds, throwing them into the gym doing, I think it was weightlifting,
Mm,
and they ended up having, through consistent
mm, mm,
practice,
mm.
they were able to have the same level of strength and endurance as a 20-year-old.
Wow,
So there's no such thing as we're too old.
that's right.
That's a bullshit belief that we feed ourselves to
Yeah,
cop
yeah,
out.
that's right.
There's when you say, "Oh, I'm too overweight, I'm too heavy." Well, you got to start somewhere.
That's right.
So go do it.
Mm,
And that's the thing that I realized is that the power in life is in those decisions and making them absolute decisions, because
that's right.
otherwise we're just having that negotiation.
That's right.
And that's where we get tripped up. that's
That's right.
that's the that's the door crack that leads to the opening to exit.
Mm, mm,
And that's something I've been harping on a lot lately, because it's been a massive shift for me in my life, is in the decision of absolute no more negotiations, because
mm,
that energy also radiates from you.
mm, mhm,
So
mhm,
it doesn't just impact the people around you, it radiates beyond that level.
mm.
And all the people that are constantly blaming everyone else and everything else for their circumstances, it wards those people off, because they can't live in the absolute, because they're
Mhm,
too busy
mhm,
in negotiation. And
mhm, mhm.
for you working with entrepreneurs, you probably even see that with some entrepreneurs because of their personality types, where they're kind of floating between that level of
That ind
stagnant, because they're
that's
not
right.
absolute.
That's right. That indecision, the self-doubt. Should I do this? Should I do that? I got so many options. I got so many opportunities. And so being able to have this as very core to what I teach is you need to find something that you can do every single day. Like there's no, like, you absolutely have to do this kind of thing. And the best way for me to figure out how I can do something every day is I make it easy and I make it enjoyable.
Mm.
Unless I'm enjoying the journey and the process, unless it's something that's easy for me to get started on to break through all the bull crap in my
Yeah.
head that's preventing me from just doing the thing, I won't make the progress and the growth that I so desperately need as a person in my life and in my business.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's one thing everybody says to me. Well, just go to the gym. I fucking hate the gym. It
That's right.
stinks.
That's right. That's
So
right.
I live on a 3 acre property. I don't
Yeah,
need a gym. This is my
that's right.
gym.
That's
I
right.
even said to my husband, we should set up circuit training outdoors.
There you go. There you go.
And he's like, that's not a bad idea. But I mean, even for me, I ended up getting my black belt in my mid 40s
Oh wow.
during COVID.
I love that.
And yeah, and it was funny because to me, karate, when I first started it, it was nothing more than a social interaction to help my daughter get in something. So she said, I'll do it if you do it, thinking
Okay.
we'd be in the same class. But she was so young at the time that
Okay.
we had separate classes.
Okay.
So when she started, I started, but I ended up in the adult class. So I'm just thinking this is just a social thing, but it's very structured. And
Mm.
then all of a sudden, I got teamed up with a couple of young girls. So one was in her late teens in high school, the other one is in her early 20s, and here's me in my 40s. So I was like karate mom, but it became a challenge for me to keep up with them
Mm-hmm.
because Sensei said to us, he said, what's going to happen is the young people will retain faster because they're still got
Yep.
that
Yep.
ability.
Access to.
And he
Yep.
said, chances are you're gonna fall behind is typically what he sees,
Yeah.
typically.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck you.
Yeah.
I didn't
Challenge
I
accepted.
didn't say that to his face, but I was like, fuck you.
Yeah.
So I would, when we started to get to the upper levels, he's right. They caught on to everything like that.
Right.
So
Right.
I'd be home and I'd be like 2 seconds. Even at work, if I went to the bathroom, I'd take a few seconds to
Yep.
practice
Just do your thing.
just
Yep.
to
Yep.
try to get
Yep.
it
Keep it.
embedded in my brain.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
refused to fall behind. I was like, we are getting our black belts together. End of story.
Nice.
So what had happened is COVID hit. So
Mm.
one lady, her goal was to get to brown belt. And once she started doing it, she wanted to get to black belt, but because her brain wasn't absolute, brown belt hit, she changed careers, she dropped out.
Mm.
And then COVID hit.
Mm.
And the other one dropped out because of COVID because they didn't
Mm.
want to do it online. So I was
Mm.
the only one that got my black belt out of the three of us.
Oh.
And yeah, and I got it during COVID because when COVID hit, everything got moved to online like that. But because I knew everything and it was just fine tuning
Uh-huh.
leading up to
Uh-huh.
black belt, when we opened up
Mm-hmm.
that short window where there was a little bit of an opening,
Yep.
that's when he held black belt testing. And that's when I got tested and I got my
Oh,
black belt.
I
So when
love that.
everything got shut back down again, that's when I ended up packing it in because it was
Okay.
now you're learning angles and I couldn't do it
Right.
online.
Right.
So I was
Right.
like, that's when I packed it in. But I was the only one out of all of us that got our black belt.
I
And I
love
was
that.
like, holy shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just don't know.
Because you're absolute. And that's honestly, I have a similar story for COVID for myself too, is I wanted to get into shape. My wife was pregnant with our first child, and I'm like, okay, well, I still want to grow and I still want to be, and be strong and healthy. But then all the gyms shut down.
Hmm.
I'm like, you know what? No more excuses. I don't care. I don't care if I'm stuck in this tiny little apartment for 8 months. I'm just gonna do a push up every single day on the floor here. And I committed to it. I made sure I was gonna do it every single day. It was something that I enjoyed. It was easy for me. At the beginning, my bicep curls were just moving air like this for every single day for a large little while. But I just made
Yep.
sure I do it. I just made sure I did it every single day consistently. And from there, it's just everything's grown. So
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I can't thank you enough for being here. I'm so glad that you chime into entrepreneurs because anybody who's an entrepreneur, they want to get in touch with you. All your contact links are going to be down below.
perfect.
The free gift is for anybody and everybody. So jump in and grab it. The link will be there for you. And I can't thank you enough for coming on here. This was wonderful. I so appreciate the conversation that we had.
It
I
was great.
love being candid and I'm known to be blunt, but trying to find ways to do it gracefully
Yeah, no, really enjoyed
is
the
key.
conversation. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
no, and I really appreciate it. So yeah, so your links will be everywhere and anybody that wants to jump in, grab it. And thank you very much. Remember, everybody, breathe deep because that's
Mhm.
where it all starts, is in the breath.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And take care and rest easy. And we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thanks so much, Anne.